Hello, this is Train for Print. My name is Marcus Cruz. Welcome to the 7th installment of my Treasure Chest tutorial series, where we in Blender learn to 3D model for 3D printing. Last episode we sculpted the wood grain, including some beautiful knots. Yeah, I'm just kidding. This is very basic sculpting, and we learned only the tip, the very tip of the iceberg. Today we will look into another technique, and that is displacement. We will give this metal reinforcement some texture. Displacement is a technique where we're using some kind of map, for instance an image, to move the geometry about. For instance, giving it a pattern of rust, which we will do in this case. So let's dive in. I will click Shift H, screencast keys. So I selected the reinforcement and press Shift H, so I only see the chest reinforcements. And before we start with the displacement, we want to have a solid geometry, because we want to do a remesh. Remesh, same as we did with sculpting, is the method we use to get an even spread of resolution across the surface of the object. And we use the remesh modifier, but as you will see, the remesh modifier doesn't work if the object is not solid. So we must make it solid. So it picks up tiny details, but most of it is interpreted as non-solid. So, and let's get rid of these vertices, and I press X and dissolve vertices. I will just go around deleting these. One thing I can show you is Shift G, select the vertex like this. There is no edge in the middle here, so it's only one face here. Shift G and then amount of adjacent faces. We will select all the vertices that have shared this. And we can dissolve them all in one go. We haven't hit everything, so some of these will have to be selected manually. Now I'm starting to fill in the faces, so I hold down Alt and I left click, and that selects this whole loop, and I press F to fill it with a face, and then I extrude it in a bit so I don't collide with the wood. Remember, the wood is going in here, so we don't want the this surface to interfere with that. And I think pressing this face and this face, and I can just alt click here, one face. This can be much easier if we use a little add-on called F2. So, preferences, add-ons. This is installed in Blender by default, but it's not enabled. F2. Enable that. And then I can just press an edge, select an edge here, press F, and it will just fill in. Very handy. So I think everything up here is taken care of. But we also need down here, and I will Alt, Fill, view it in wireframe mode from above, and I go right there. Oh. So if we view this from the inside, actually I don't want to. Yeah, I can. Yeah. It's easier. I had another plan, but this is actually better. Yeah. And now, if we tab out of edit mode, it's solid. I've actually shifted to. So the remesh works. And if we go into wireframe mode, we can see that the surface is covered by these little quads. Very good. But we want a higher resolution, so let's change the voxel size to 0.4. No, 0.04. Yeah, that's good. And now we have many quads. Now it's ready for displacement. Displacement is a modifier. And as soon as we activate it, it's looking very bloated, and we will add a texture and it will actually look worse. What happened here? So yeah, that is because it by default selects an image texture, and this texture is empty. So let's swap it to something else. Just to show you, this is a cloud texture. Let's dial that back, 0.2. Yeah, it's a very noisy texture. Let's change the size up to 1. Now we can actually see what it does. So every vertex is pulled or pushed along its normal. So if we view something that was sharp before, along this sharp edge here, and we turn off the displacement in the viewport, so these vertices go up because that's their normal, and these vertices go here, and this along goes in that direction. But if this mid-level here, if says that if the map is in the middle in its range, so it's a medium gray, then this doesn't move at all. But if the map is darker, they're actually going to be pushed in. and we will have a self-intersection. So the only way to stop that is to smooth the mesh a little bit before. So we add a smooth modifier, and one iteration of the smooth modifier doesn't do very much, so we must repeat it. And maybe let's try 20. You can see that it became much softer. Maybe too much, actually. 10. So we have the same overall shape, but it's smooth. Every detail is a little bit softer. Actually, 5 maybe. Yeah. Let's try that. Another way to deal with the self-intersections is, of course, to edit them manually. And having just a few of them is probably okay if you want to do that. If you have a ton of them, maybe do it another way, unless you're really patient. So, let's go and enable our displacement map again. We can see here, we probably have some self-intersection here. We won't, if we tab into edit mode, we see the previous geometry here, because these are non-destructive, so I must apply them before we can see what they really do in edit mode. But we're going to change the map, and we see here at the displacement modifier, displace, this little button here takes us to the texture, and here we see a 2D view preview of what the texture look like. Some settings for the clouds is the scale or size. That's so big it's not noticeable, slightly noticeable, or really high frequency. We probably want 1, but we're going to use a Musgrave texture actually, and it's similar but a little bit different. So it has much more settings and it's much more complicated, but for now we're just going to turn up the lacunarity, whatever that means. But no, that should be 2 octaves. Now we have patches of rust all over. Like if the chest has been sitting on the bottom of the sea or something. We can actually that's here I can see we have a self-intersection. So remember, this is for 3D printing, so the detail is very exaggerated. We can tone it down even so, slight bit, 0.15, and yeah, we can then press Alt-H, then we view the wood. We should actually do something about the wood being visible through the keyhole. That's not how it works. But yeah, this is, I think we should go for 0.2. That's probably better. Even though we then worsen the self-intersections. We will fix them somehow. I will show you. Right, so we could just apply all these. But then if we want to continue working with this mesh, we have lost that possibility. So I duplicate this object and move it to the archive. In that way we can continue like a save point or something. And then we can take this and apply, apply, apply. And now, if we go into edit mode, we see all this geometry. And we see the self-intersections. So the slicer won't know what to do in this case. Because you can see here, see if I can, yeah. So the edge goes sort of like that, up and down. So we have a loop and it intersects itself here, and that's bad. So 3D print toolbox to the rescue. We can press solid. Yeah, that's not the problem. The problem is the intersections. It's a little bit heavy because we have a million polygons. Tab into edit mode, intersections, 3000. Yeah. So we can see here that these are not selected because these don't intersect, but we actually want to select those. I will show you a little trick. In case of this, we have everything selected that we want. Probably some more here, but we press Ctrl and numpad plus to grow our selection. Keep track of how many times you press it. Little computer has to work now. Now I have everything, and then I press Ctrl and numpad minus on the numerical keyboard to shrink the selection back again. But everything that was encircled will be selected. Right, maybe like this. So I have a lot of islands selected with self-intersection, and I can just smooth vertices. And like with the smooth modifier, one pass doesn't do very much, so I can do 10 passes. And look at that. You see how it changed from this to vertex smooth vertices. 10 again. Like that. So 20. I think that fixed that. That is definitely fixed. So we can do the check intersections again. And from 3100 we have down to 240. We can check. So we have, yeah, that's no surprise. That was very severe. We have one here and one there. So let's do Control plus until we have everything, and then Control minus a couple of times. And smooth vertices. Oh, I have that in my quick menu. So vertex, smooth vertex. And if you know that you want to do that a lot, you can go into the menu here, right click it and add it to the quick favorites. And then you can just press Q and select smooth vertices here. Try again. Only 16 left. And that's only these, because I pressed the numpad dot and that focused my viewport on the selected vertices. So smooth those. No more intersection. So that's fixed. Yeah, this chest looks really ragged now. But also it's a lot of polygons. So let's reduce it in size, shall we? And then we use the displacement modifier. We can see that is 849,000. One little trick I used to do is uncheck this. I think 0.3. We don't need that much detail. But also, there are a lot of wasted vertices. What do I mean by that? So before, because it's remeshed, all those flat areas were still comprised of lots of vertices. And now that we have decimated it, all that is optimized away. So we have the detail where we need it, we can say. Yeah, that's looking quite all right. If you want a very rusty treasure chest. But if it's been on the bottom of the sea for many years, it's probably got something interesting inside. Export to STL, and that's it for today. Next week we will merge these two together to one single object again. Right, thanks for watching. Bye.